3 Lives 3 Worlds, 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms. By Tangqi Gongzi. Translated by Hamster 428. Chapter 8. I crawl down from my bed and take care of my morning hygiene as simply as possible. Then I drink some tea and look out toward the cave's entrance, waiting for Yehua to take me on our walk. I don't know what's wrong with him either. He walks every single morning and insists to take me along each time. There's nothing extraordinary about the scenery nearby. There are only some small bamboo groves along with some clear streams. It's charming the first few times, but it gets old after a while. I have to give it to him for being excited still after half a month. I leisurely walk outside and hear raindrops falling. I suppress my joy as I lay the teacup back down on the table and quickly go back to my room for another nap. Sleep hasn't come yet when I hear footsteps coming near. As my eyes fly open, I see Yehua standing by my bed. I make a sad face and say, "I'm not sure which water lord is making rain today. I'm sorry you have to miss your walk. Please put up with the indoors for one day, okay?" Yehua faintly smirks without saying anything. The little doe, who should still be sleeping, sticks his head out from behind Yehua and energetically jumps onto my bed. He's wearing a brightly embroidered outfit today, which highlights his small hands and his pink chubby cheeks. I'm still blinded by his bright outfit when he hugs my neck and cutely says, "Father says he'll take us down to the mortal realm for a stroll today. Why are you still in bed?" He's got me surprised. Yehua conveniently takes the cape draping on the room divider and gives it to me. Luckily it's not raining down there. What exactly is it that he wants? If he doesn't know the way and needs a guide, he should have asked a local earth deity. Although I went to the mortal realm now and again when I was studying at Kunlun, I can't remember directions anymore. It's a bad idea to ask me. But the little doe's big darling eyes are staring at me with full of hope that I can't come up with any excuses. As soon as I hop onto the cloud, I turn myself into a young male fairy and tell the little doe, "You'll call your father father and you'll call me godfather, okay?" He doesn't really get why, but he's always listened to me, so he obediently agrees. Yehua doesn't pay much attention. He turns his cape to look like one's from the mortal realm and looks at me as he says, "You look good this way too." I laugh and say, "You're too kind." The little doe points and thrills at everything he sees on the way. Everything is new and strange to him. Tianjun's dignity is wiped clean by his actions. But Yehua doesn't seem to mind. He and I slowly walk behind while the doe runs ahead. The mortal realm's market is also more rowdy than King Kaiu's. I softly flap my fan and ask Yehua, "Why the sudden urge to come here? Didn't Jiajin bring you a stack of reports yesterday? It didn't seem easy to take care of." He gives me a quick glance and says, "Today is Ali's birthday." I ah and close my fan. "How bad of you to not tell me earlier. I don't have anything precious on me right now." He calls me mom, and yet I don't have any present for his birthday. Wouldn't that make me an awful person? He says indifferently, "What big gifts are you going to give him?" "A knight shining pearl." I ask, surprised, "How do you know?" His eyes crinkle into a smile. "People in heaven mentioned your gift-giving in one of their banters. They say your signature gift is a knight shining pearl and it hasn't changed for years. A small one for a small fairy, a big one for a big fairy. Apparently you're very fair." Ali is still young, so he won't recognize the worth of a knight-shining pearl. It's better to take him out for fun today. I scratch my nose and laugh. I have one that's half a person's size. From afar it looked like a small moon. If we hang it in his palace, it'll be even brighter than Maori Jun's, god of the morning, place. It's the only one in the entire world. As I go on animatedly, I find myself abruptly pulled back and falling into his arms. A horse carriage madly speeds past us. Yehua slightly frowns. The two galloping horses suddenly come to a stop, neighing as they rear. The wooden carriage comes crashing on the ground at the sudden halt. The driver rolls out from his seat and wipes his sweat as he says, "Thank heaven these two crazy horses finally stopped." The little doe who was still skipping ahead just moments ago comes crawling out from under the horse's belly. He holds in his hands a young traumatized girl. The girl actually looks taller than the little doe, and it seems like she's being dragged away from the waist. A woman dashes out from the crowd and pulls the girl away from the little doe. She wails as she says, "You frightened me to death, you frightened me to death." This scene is somewhat familiar. My own mother's image appears in my mind. Her miserable crying appearance, the way she held onto me tightly. Where did you go these 200 years? Why did you become this way? I shake my head, determining it must be hallucination. My mother didn't even act that way when I was about to die in Yanhua Cave with Moi Wan. On top of that, I never left King Kaihu for 200 years at a time. But I did sleep for 200 years after the battle against Jing Sheng 500 years ago. The little doe runs to us and innocently asks, "Father, why do you have Godfather in your arms?" The recently horrified crowd immediately switches their gaze to us. I laugh uneasily as I leave Yehua's chest and say, I fell. The little doe sighs in relief and says, "What a good thing you fell into Father's arms. If you had fallen to the ground, your beautiful face would be cut and then Father will be in a lot of pain." I'll be in a lot of pain too. He contemplates on something and turns to ask Yehua, "Right, Father?" Everyone's eyes turn to Yehua. He nonchalantly strokes his chin and says, "Right." I'm so embarrassed I want to hide my head in the ground. When we are eating lunch at a lakeside restaurant, a Taoist nun comes by and asks to join us. She was with the driver of the horse carriage. She thanks Yehua for having saved her life and keeps on blushing while trying to insist she will come by his home one day to repay the favor. I want to laugh my head off. This nun, she isn't dreaming of a spring dream, is she? Now I know why Moi Wan didn't want to accept any female disciples. With their faces, it's hard to avoid amour. Yehua takes another sip of his tea and continues with his cold ways. There's a reason for everything. Today's result was naturally caused by your past kindness. It has nothing to do with me. You don't have to keep it in your heart. Miaoun the nun doesn't know what else to say. She sees me and the little doe and gently says, "You two are a very handsome young fairy." I humbly reply, "I may be handsome now, but who knows how I'll turn out when I grow up." There's another fairy from my hometown who was beyond exquisite as a child. But 3,000 years passed and he turned ordinary. The little doe tugs my sleeve unhappily. I want to die laughing. It's hard to get the chance to criticize someone and still get to pretend to be humble. Yehua lifts his cup and smiles to me, what's the use of a man having good looks? It's better to bring out your fist than to bring out your face during fights. After a sip of tea, he continues, I heard daughters take after the father and sons take after their mother. I think when Ali grows up, he won't look too bad. The teary-eyed doe instantly regains his spirit. He looks at Yehua with deep feelings as if he's sorry he can't scoot closer to his father. I cough lightly and say affectionately, it doesn't matter how he looks when he grows up. Since he's my blood and flesh, he'll always be in my heart. The little doe immediately turns to look at me with tear-well eyes. He scoots over closely to me without leaving a millimeter in between. Yehua chuckles without saying anything more. Yehua seems to have caught a cold bug when our meals are brought to us. He deliberately takes a bit from every dish to give me. He even smiles kindly and intimately tells me, you like this dish, have a bit more. Or, I know you don't like this dish but it's good for your health. You're already so thin, you'll pain me if you don't take care of yourself. I know he's using me as a shield but I still want to barf at his words. Miaoun also feels uncomfortable hearing these words. Her driver eats quickly and takes his mistress away. Yehua finally stops giving me food. I sigh in relief. He says, what will we do in the future if you can't take my confessions now? I ignore him and just eat my lunch. We still haven't finished our meal when Jiajin appears and whispers something to Yehua. Yehua turns around and tells me, can you watch Ali this afternoon? I need to go back to heaven for a little bit. I'll look for you two in the evening. I thought there's not any storyteller in heaven so I take the little doe to see a play. I somehow fell asleep in the middle of the play and discover him gone when I wake up. When I finally find him through my mirror, he is at a brothel. I ask him why he left me to come here and he explained he was trying to save a young lady from several men. But they disappeared when he got downstairs so someone told him to go here. He went through walls and went to the wrong room by mistake. The little doe wipes his nose and pouts for a long while before saying, there were two people who tightly hugged each other on the bed. It seemed interesting so I just wanted to see what they were doing. My heart starts beating fast as I tremble to ask him, what did you see? He thinks and says, hugging, touching. After a while he stammers and asks, Mom, what were they doing? I look up to the sky and tells him with a straight face, it's a meditation technique the mortals like to practice. It's called couple harmony meditation. Haha, right, couple harmony meditation. The little doe replies in revelation, how studious mortals are. They're also interested in meditation. I laugh uneasily. Part 3. Just as I turn around, I slam into an iron chest. The strong smell of alcohol is all over his body. I use my hand to soothe my nose and step back. In front of me is an angry man holding a fan. He points the fan to me and says, young sir, how handsome you are. My royal self entirely admire you. Cough, cough. So he's a royal playboy. I force myself to reply, not at all, sir, and drag the little doe downstairs. He turns to block my path. Quick as lightning he grabs my hand and swallow his saliva, your hand's so soft and fair. I wasn't going to teach him a lesson but he already comes near me wanting to grab my waist. Well, this changes thing. I'm normally a kind fairy, but since this mortal doesn't have any relation to King Kaiu, my kindness can fortunately have a limit. I was about to cast a spell to shut him up and then throw him to a nearby forest for a few days when I feel that someone has pulled me tightly into his arms. It's a very familiar feeling. I look up and happily greet him. "Haha, Yehua, you've come at the right time." Yehua pulls me away. His black cape glistens in the lamplight. He smirks at the confused man. "Are you having fun teasing my wife?" The little doe swallows his mung bean cake, licks his mouth, and sincerely says to the man as he holds my hand, "You've got some talent to be able to anger my father. You'll reap what you sowed. Be careful." The man turns from embarrassment to anger. "Humph! Do you know who I am?" "Humph!" He disappears before he could finish his words. I ask Yehua, "Where did you take him?" He gives me a quick glance as he turns toward the oil lamp and casually says, "There's a thick forest nearby." I'm caught wordless. "Well, aren't we soulmates?" He continues to watch the oil lamp for some more moments and at last turns to look at me. "Why didn't you leave when you got teased?" I say, "A little touch isn't a big deal." He casually bends down and casually plants a soft kiss on my lips. I stay shell-shocked. He continues to casually shoot me a glance, then a little kiss shouldn't be a big deal either. Today, I have been disrespected by a snotty brat who's 90,000 years younger. The little doe covers his mouth and breaks out laughing. His laughter is so hearty he ends up choking on his mung bean cake. At night we take the little doe out to float lanterns on the river. Yehua gives me a lantern. Humans ask the gods for wishes. But who should the gods ask in turn? Yehua chuckles and says, "They're mere wishes. Just float it on the water and everything will come true." I listen to him and unhurriedly walk over to where the little doe is, dropping the lantern on the water. Everything went rather well today. After the lantern floating, the little doe falls asleep in his father's arms. In his sleep he still talks about wanting to stay in the mortal realm overnight. So we stop by an inn to look for rooms. There are only 3 inns in this town and 2 are already full. There is 1 vacant room left at the 3rd one. When we get to the 2nd floor, Yehua pushes the door open and lays the little doe on the bed. Then he turns around and asks the server to bring up some washing water. My stomach growls and he adds, "Bring us 2 dishes as well." The waiter seems really sleepy. He probably just wants to serve us quickly and go back to bed. So he's uncommonly fast with bringing up our dinner, 2 stir-frieds and a veggie dish. There's a salty beef dish, a pecan dish, and a tofu with onion dish. A few bites in and I don't want to continue. I'm not a picky eater to begin with. But because I've been eating Yehua's cooking lately, I'm now somewhat a food expert. I've been spoiled. Yehua is reading a book under the light, or maybe he's reviewing reports. He lifts his head up, glances at me then at the food on the table. "If you're done eating then wash up and go to bed." It's a normal room with a single bed. I look at the bed and hesitate. I finally sit down on it with my clothes still fully on. Yehua hasn't mentioned how we're going to divide this bed among the 3 of us, like it's an inconsequential detail. I don't want to ask now and make things more awkward. The little doe is sleeping soundly. I lightly push him further in and take a pillow to lie down next to him. Yehua is still going over reports under the light. In the middle of my sleep, I feel someone taking my hand. That person softly sighs as he says, "I'm well aware of your personality and yet I didn't think you'd be so hard-hearted. You really have wiped everything clean from your memory. A part of me wants you to remember, but another part of me hopes you'll never recall that past." I pay little attention. Hazily, I turn around and wrap the little doe in my arms. I enter a sound sleep. Early next morning I wake up from bed. Yehua is still sitting in the same seat last night to read his reports. The only difference is that there's no candle light today. Did he pull an all-nighter? Or did he sleep a little and get up to read reports before I wake up? The little doe turns around from the table and invites me over. "Mom, this porridge is really good. I left some for you." I pat his head and call him a good boy. After washing my face, I try a spoonful of the porridge. It tastes somewhat like the one Yehua usually makes. When I try to look to him for an answer, he keeps his head down while saying, "This in's food is a little hard to swallow." I borrowed their kitchen to make some porridge because I was afraid Ali wouldn't be used to their food. Ali hesitantly says, "When we were staying on Mount Junji, I couldn't eat anything the East Sea Princess made. So father had to cook in secret for me." Yehua coughs softly. "Thanks to that I get to share this food." I go back to my porridge and heartily consume it. End of chapter 8.